College. For many, it's a time of newfound freedom, late-night study sessions, and unforgettable friendships. But for some, it becomes the backdrop for experiences so unsettling, they sound like something straight out of a horror movie. Today, we're diving into 4 true college horror stories, submitted by students who lived through them. These aren't tales of ghosts or monsters, but of chilling real-life encounters that prove the scariest things are the ones that can actually happen. Our first story comes from a student named Maya, who lived in an off-campus apartment during her sophomore year. Her building was old, and the landlord was, let's just say, not very responsive. One night, while pulling an all-nighter for a midterm, she heard a faint scratching sound. She brushed it off as an old building settling or maybe a stray animal outside. But the sound grew more persistent, seeming to come from inside her wall. It was a rhythmic scratching, almost deliberate. Over the next few days, the sound continued. Always, late at night. She complained to her landlord, who did nothing. One evening, the scratching stopped and was replaced by a soft thud. The next morning, a dark, foul-smelling stain had appeared on the ceiling of her closet. Terrified, she called the police herself. When they investigated, they made a grim discovery in the vacant apartment, directly above hers. A squatter had been living there for weeks, and the scratching Maya heard was him trying to bore a hole through the floorboards to spy on her. The thud was the sound of his makeshift tools falling after he apparently gave up. Maya moved out the very next day. Next, we have a story from a guy named Ben, a resident advisor in a freshman dorm. One of the perks of being an RA was getting a single room. His was at the very end of a long, quiet hallway. Late one Friday, after most students had gone home for the weekend, Ben was doing his rounds. As he walked down his empty hall, he noticed one door was slightly ajar. It was the room of a quiet student, Alex, who Ben knew had left for the weekend. Thinking Alex just forgot to close it, Ben went to shut it, but as he pushed it, it wouldn't budge, as if something was blocking it. He called out Alex's name, but there was no answer. He pushed harder, and the door creaked open just enough for him to peek inside. The room was dark, but he could see a figure standing motionless behind the door. His heart leaped into his throat. He yelled, "Who's in there?" The figure didn't move. Ben backed away slowly, phoned an end and called campus security. When they arrived and forced the door open, they found nothing. The room was empty, but propped against the inside of the door was a life-sized cardboard cutout of a celebrity that another student had been using for a prank. The figure was just cardboard, but for a few terrifying moments in that silent, empty dorm, Ben was convinced he was face to face with an intruder. Our third story is from Chloe, who was part of a study group that often met in the library's 24-hour section. It was a massive, sprawling space, mostly deserted after midnight. One night, Chloe and her friend were the only 2 people on an entire floor. They were packing up around 2 a.m. when Chloe realized she'd left her textbook in a secluded alcove at the far end of the stacks. She told her friend she'd be right back and jogged over to get it. As she entered the narrow aisle, she saw her book on the table, but sitting in the chair next to it was a man she'd never seen before, just staring blankly at the wall. He was completely still. An uneasy feeling crept over her. She quickly grabbed her book, and as she turned to leave, he spoke without looking at her. "You shouldn't be here alone," he whispered. His voice was raspy and low. Chloe didn't say a word. She just sprinted back to a friend, grabbed her stuff, and they practically ran out of the library. She never saw the man again, but she never went back to that section of the library late at night either. The library was supposed to be a safe space, a sanctuary of knowledge, but that night, it felt like a trap. Finally, we have a story from a student who lived in a co-ed suite with 3 other roommates. They had a shared living room and kitchen. One morning, he walked into the kitchen to find a post-it note on the fridge. It read, "You're almost out of milk." He figured one of his roommates wrote it. He asked them later, but all 3 denied it. They thought he was playing a joke. A few days later, another note appeared on the bathroom mirror. "Nice haircut." Again, everyone denied writing it. The notes became more frequent and more personal, commenting on conversations they'd had or clothes they were wearing. It was creepy, but they tried to laugh it off as a prank. The turning point came when the original student came home early one day and heard a noise from his roommate's bedroom. Thinking his roommate was back, he knocked. There was silence. Then, He heard the distinct sound of the window sliding open. He opened the door to find the room empty, but the window overlooking the fire escape was wide open, the screen pushed out. They finally realized someone had been entering their apartment when they were gone, living amongst them, leaving notes, and watching them. They immediately changed the locks and installed cameras. They never found out who it was. These stories remind us that feeling safe is a fragile thing, and sometimes, the most ordinary places can hold the most unsettling secrets. Stay aware, trust your instincts, and look out for one another. Thanks for watching. If you have a story of your own, share it in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content. Stay safe out there.